The Mix 88.5 Property Update, brought to you by the award-winning Tudor Group, developers of Tudor Villas and in the final stages of Tudor Court Condominium, Pratham Nack Soi 2. The Tudor Group, Thai lifestyle, European standards.
Welcome to the Mix 88.5 Property Update on PMTV. With me, as always, is Tim Gladwin from Salmons, Thailand.
The Mix 88.5 Property Update.
Good afternoon again. It's a Wednesday, means our property update on the way. With us, as always, in the studio, Tim Gladwin. If you want to get hold of Tim, its usual contact addresses and numbers and telephones and email addresses are 038 252588 is the office number. SalmonsThailand.com is the website, and Patia at SalmonsThailand.com to get hold of him and find out what has been going on in the property world, or getting any comments as to things we brought up over the course of our property update. So, Tim, as always, good afternoon. Welcome.
Afternoon, Russell.
And Wednesday comes around rather quick now, doesn't it?
Always.
It seems like it was just yesterday we were doing it.
Yeah, I was just thinking this morning, actually, that here we are halfway through January already. Before we know it, the first month of the year will be out of the way, and it beggars belief how quickly it goes, really.
Well, it's jumped early this year because Chinese New Year is early this year, isn't it? It's in January rather than in February time.
So I understand, yes, and obviously that means that we can expect quite a significant influx of visitors towards the end of the month, and we'll add, I think, to what's already quite a busy town. Certainly, I noticed a headline in one of the local newspapers in 7-Eleven yesterday, and it was big, black, bold type saying tourist numbers very high, going crazy. I can't remember exactly what it said, but that was the general message.
That's always good.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's what we discussed. You know, there are a lot of people who look at things like the flooding, or when the airport was occupied, and they go out and they say that it will affect the market for years to come, affect tourist arrivals for years to come. But the reality seems to be that tourists have incredibly short memories, and things are back to normal pretty much in the blink of an eye.
Or it actually just affects them for a very short time. It might affect the country and those people that got flooded out, but the actual effect on people coming down and having a look, or spending their holiday time here, or staying for a while, the only time it did affect them really was when you couldn't buy certain things in the shops. After that, well, was there even a flood, I think, for most tourists?
Yeah, certainly patio tourists weren't really affected at all. While for those of us who live here, we had a few issues with supermarket supplies, I can honestly say that I didn't have any problems whatsoever when I went out for a meal or for a drink. The bars, the restaurants, whatever else, they were always well stocked as far as I'm aware. And so I'm not sure there was any effect whatsoever on tourists.
And things are obviously getting back to normal again, because filling up the car, I now get my free bottle of water again.
Yeah,
and that did disappear for a while.
Is that right? I mean, one of the great shocks was when the water shortage, bottled water shortage, was at its worst. I went for petrol down on Sukhumvit Road. I can't remember the green station there.
Yeah,
and they gave me a free bottle of water. Yeah. I couldn't get it anywhere else, but I could get it free with my petrol.
Exactly, but it's not really what you want to do, is it? 1,000 baht of petrol to get a bottle of water. You'd have way too much petrol and not enough water to drink. So, in basic terms, how is the market ticking over? It's fine, everything now. We're sort of out of Christmas, we're out of New Year, into off the mad season, and it is back to normality again.
Yeah, it continues to tick along quite nicely. Much along the lines of what I've said recently, whereby there aren't lots and lots of walk-ins to our office, at least, but those people who come in, those people who contact us, seem to be, to a very large extent, genuine, and therefore business is reasonably good. Generally, I don't think the Western European English kick to the market that generally happens at some stage during the high season has really happened as yet. But that's not altogether unusual. I think a lot of Brits, when they're coming over, they tend to holiday more in February, March than in January. Obviously, the hangover from Christmas and New Year,
plus the January sales,
and the January sales. There tends to be a little bit of a hiatus after New Year before they arrive. I understand, however, that the Russian market has really got quite busy in recent days, last week or two, as obviously the tourist numbers do increase. A lot of new tourists do arrive. And
so towels on beds around swimming pools have gone up rather swiftly.
I suspect that's right. But it's all in all, it's remarkably healthy, bearing in mind, the less than great news we hear pretty much on a daily basis on the Business Daily or whatever other news we listen to or read in the Western newspapers, there seems to be an awful lot of negativity, and yet the market here continues to do really quite well.
Yeah, it seems to be fine over here. It just, as much as you hear, whenever you do hear anything, it's the double dip recession's coming now, definitely, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's still there, or the threat of it is still there, over the last couple of days, being that Greece is still now probably the best option for them is actually to pull out of the euro.
Right. And so it goes on, and yet the market here has proven to be extremely resilient. All the bad news that keeps coming in, the expectation is it's going to have an effect because it seems to be affecting most of the world economically. But nevertheless, as we've seen over the last year, 2 years, even particularly off-plan condo sales have been incredibly good. And obviously for that reason, developers keep coming to town, both those who have already developed here and others that have not yet developed here, but are keen to on the back of the success of...
You wouldn't blame them when you see what's been going on before. If you were someone new coming in, if you see what's been going on before and you had the right sort of backing behind you, well, why not put up a new development?
Yeah, as long as the buyers keep buying, I don't think we're going to see any significant slowdown in the number of new developers coming to town and the number of new developments being announced by both those new developers and the pre-existing developers. And certainly the biggest problem might be lack of quality sites. Certainly, I remember 5-6 years ago, there was so much land for sale in and around Pattaya, so much good land, developable land. There's very little around now, very little good stuff, and that's one of the greatest challenges for developers. So what we're seeing is the areas that have been developed are starting to stretch. Obviously, we've had some recent developments announced in at the very far end of Jomtien. Technically, it's Nar Jomtien, down near La Royale. I think the new Centara development's going down there.
I did see that one the other day, going
I think it's 26 Rai and very luxurious development planned there. Same sort of area, I think Nam Talay. I think there's more than 1,000 units planned for that development. So obviously we're stretching. The problem is, of course, once you get past Bang Saray, then the beachfront land is all owned by the Navy, right around pretty much until Ban Chang in Rayong. So we've got quite a limited area in which to develop, particularly bearing in mind that there's a lot of condos already developed between Jomtien and Bang Saray. So it's not like you've got a virgin coastline there. There's a lot of land that's already developed, or a lot of land that's already bought. Going north, you've got much more. The water quality is not so good.
Yeah.
The beaches tend to be muddy rather than sandy, and of course, not too far up, you've got Lamshebang and all the commercial development up there. So north is not really an option directly out of Pattaya. So you're looking south, but like I say, once you get to beyond Bang Saray, the Navy takes over. So there's really quite in relative terms at least, a narrow corridor for development. And I think what you'll see over the next few years is it will fill up more and more with new developments as space runs out in the very centre of Pattaya and Jomtien itself.
Now, I think we've gone through this one before, where we looked at the condo development has to be sort of in that area. So moving up to the east side and moving up the hill, that doesn't help very much.
No, I mean, for a variety of reasons. An awful lot of land in the east of Pattaya is not within a zone whereby condos can be built. You're not allowed to build condos on much of that land. Right. I think the maximum height for a lot of land in East Pattaya is, I think, probably 14 meters or 3 stories.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a minefield, the zoning regulations here, but as far as I'm aware, like I say, the majority of the land over there is limited in terms of how high the development can go, and therefore not suitable for condos. So you are really talking about the West Pattaya, if that's the how you'd term it. I don't think it's generally called that, but nevertheless, obviously it is. If you got East Pattaya, you got West Pattaya, you got the ocean side.
Yeah.
And besides, obviously, people who are buying condos, they generally want to be close to either the centre of town or the beach.
And easy access to everything.
Absolutely. And so, you're really looking along a relatively thin corridor, and also, as I said a minute ago, a relatively narrow corridor. And obviously, basic economics tells us that when it fills up, what you'll have is prices go up, because supply and demand being such as they are, if you can't build anymore, then those that exist will be worth more.
So get in now. Does that mean that new ones that have not actually got released now, the next batch of condo developments are actually going to be a little bit more expensive. Two reasons is that, one, because obviously now we're going to get short of land in places, and two, because the economy in other parts of the world is falling apart, so other things, building materials, are going to get more expensive?
Well, I think there has been some effect on prices as a result of building materials going up in recent years, but I think we're still at a little bit of an early stage before the supply of land becomes really critical.
Okay.
It's more of a looking in the medium to long term. You know, we don't have an area where you can keep going and keep going before we get to the point where all the land is taken up. Obviously, we've still got a fair few years to go, but nevertheless, if development and the growth of development continues at the rate it's currently going, then those areas won't remain vacant for very long. And so whilst we are looking forward, you know, a little while, it's not just around the corner.
So we don't rush out immediately and say, right, all the land's going, let me buy a condo now.
No, but if you're a developer and you're looking for prime sites, then the need is somewhat more urgent, because in terms of beachfront sites, going from developable areas, credible developable areas, from North Pattaya right down to Bang Sarai, there aren't many left.
Okay, so go one step further then, not saying let's going to run out and buy our condo now. How about if we run out and buy a huge plot of land in prime area in a couple of years' time? As it buy it now, in a couple of years' time, it's going to be prime, sit on it for a while. Is that still a possibility?
Well, you're not going to get them cheap anymore. I think that the days have long since passed, and land prices here over the last 10 years have increased very significantly. You look at areas like Wongamat. You know, if there are any prime beachfront development plots currently on the market, I'm not aware of them. Obviously, the vast majority of them have been sold. Those that can be sold, or the owners are willing to sell, they've been sold and developed. Obviously, Pattaya Beach Road, there's like, I think, one vacant lot there that's owned by a prominent family. Whether that would ever become available, I'm not sure, but the rest is developed out. Jomtien is filling up fast. And again, if you trace the coast right down to Bang Sarai, the number of decent beachfront sites that are either undeveloped or have not yet been bought by someone who will in due course develop it are relatively few and far between. There were, like I say, 5 or 6 years ago, we had lots of these sites on our books. There were stacks of them, but they've gradually been, well, not quite so gradually, they've been sold off.
Because there's so many things going up at the moment, and that is obviously still a good business. Prices, we've looked, you bought a couple of condos for investment over the last couple of months, as we've been talking about. Have the prices already started to go up, or are they all still fairly stable? The ones that have just been launched, the Amazon, Atlantis, Unix, and all those that have been launched just recently at a price, are they now starting to increase, or have they still managed to stay where they were?
Well, I think, obviously, there are, as we've discussed in previous shows, there are a whole range of different grades of condos and different types of condos in terms of what they offer, low-rise, high-rise, whether they're in an A-grade location, a B-grade location, or whatever. And obviously, each of them has their price points. Now, prices, to an extent, in different price points have bounced around in recent years to reflect the way the market's gone. Obviously, it was very busy 3, 4, 5 years ago. Then we had a slowdown. Then it's picked up again. You know, I think the only thing you can really say, if you're sort of putting it together in a nice, quick comment, is that generally you can still get very good value for money here in Pattaya at all levels of the market, whether it's an A-grade condo where the price compares very well to most other beachside resort developments around Asia, or whether you're talking about something that's more in a more convenient but not beachfront, not necessarily quite such a prime spot. You know, you can still, your money goes an awful long way, and I think that's why the demand and the sales are as good as they are.
Good. It's always nice to know that you can still go out and get there. It's Mix 88.5. We've got our property report on a Wednesday, a little bit more shorter, conciser version these days. Looking at money and seeing how much it's all worth today in the investment side of things, a pound today will get you 48.6697 to be really exact. Dropped a little bit from last week. US dollar has not changed very significantly at all, 31.7. Aussie dollar goes up again. I wish I could predict how the Aussie dollar was going, because you could make a nice little killing on investing in Aussie dollars and buying and selling.
If you knew which way it was going, the way it's bounced around, there's certainly margins there.
Yes, 32.9 at the moment, up from 32.5 last week. And the euro is still managing to hang on, 40.5 at the moment and 40.4 last week. I'm surprised that it's still relatively useful in places.
Yeah, it did obviously drop a little bit, I think, was it the previous week? But, I guess hope springs eternal.
Okay, well, if you're going to spend 1.5 million baht at Tudor Court this week, in US dollars, it'll cost you 47,269. In pounds, it's 30,817, and 1.5 million baht in euros is 37,000 and an extra 5 just thrown in for luck. Yeah. Having a look at the local property of the week this week. I think we didn't get to one last week, so this week it's the same one, and a rather nice little rental, because that seems to be the thing of the day, isn't it? Finding rentals is hard work, and lots of people want them. Yeah,
these are 2 units in the La Royale development, which is right on the beach at the very far end of Jomtien Beach Road, as I said earlier. Technically it's Nha Jomtien, but just off Jomtien Beach Road. There are 2 units, like I said. One is a 2-bed, 2-bath, 106 square metres. The second also 2-bed, 2-bath, 148 square metres. Both are fully furnished, done to a nice standard, and the owner just wants to get them rented. Therefore, he has put them at prices which strike me as being exceptionally good value.
Yeah.
106 square metre, 2-bed, 2-bath unit is 20,000 baht per month, and the 148 square metre unit is 30,000 baht per month.
Being good value also, but they're quite large, aren't they? Because most of the other ones you're getting these days are, for a 2-bedroom, it's going to be less than 100.
Yeah, they're very spacious. And, it's a new development, all right. Some of the communal areas are not finished to quite the standard that they eventually will be. But nevertheless, it's a beachfront development. The units themselves are very nice. These prices, for 20,000 baht per month, in much of Pattaya and Jomtien, doesn't get you much more than a studio.
Yeah.
Here, 106 square metre, very nice, new, nicely furnished, 2-bed, 2-bath condo is really fantastic value for money. And, I think you'll go a long way before you find better value for money.
Yep, and that part of the world is just about to be opening up, as we've just discussed a little bit previously there. Coming up next door to that and others is the Centara and all those other new developments that are going to come up. And if you find a big plot of land on there, come and see Tim and we'll organise getting you a condo built on it in the next few years. I think we could wangle that, couldn't we?
No doubt.
All right, that's it for this week. Back same time, same place next week for another edition of the property update. As always, Tim, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
That's it for this week. See you same time, same place next week for another edition of the property update on PMTV.
The Mix 88.5 Property Update, brought to you by the award-winning Tudor Group, developers of Tudor Villas and in the final stages of Tudor Court Condominium, Pratam Nak Soi 2. The Tudor Group, Thai lifestyle, European standards.